Frank Kaminsky, unfortunately, goes down. And I will read the specifics of the injury, and then I'll tell you what I initially thought about it. So, stress reaction in his right knee, out indefinitely. He had missed the past 2 or 3 games with a knee injury. It was not really elaborated upon. Um, and now he is out for a while. We don't know if he's getting surgery. Monty Williams just sort of expressed remorse that it had to happen right at the worst time when, if you remember, Kaminsky obviously had the career high and he was playing so well, really spurred along this winning streak when it first was beginning with his strong play. And even when DeAndre Ayton came back, Monty Williams found a way to get Kaminsky on the floor. Now, I don't know if that was going to continue. I was advocating for it to continue, for Kaminsky to play over Nader. All beside the point, because the timing was terrible, and that was exactly when the injury struck. And so I totally agree with Monty. The timing is terrible. It's disappointing that he wasn't able to continue to play as well as he was and get the opportunity to contribute for his team. And it sucks all around. But what I was going to say is that it reminds me of the last time that we heard about a Frank Kaminsky knee injury. If you remember, it was all the way back right before the shutdown in the pandemic, for the pandemic, and then leading into the bubble. Frank Kaminsky did play in the bubble, did not play incredibly well, but right before that shutdown, Kaminsky had surgery. I believe arthroscopic knee surgery, because I don't know if I think it was actually a stress reaction as well. And so that's ominous for this new injury, of course, and hopefully it's not related and isn't a compounding hurt injury. But the reason he had to get that surgery is because he did not handle the injury correctly. And I believe it was Dwayne Rankin who wrote a story about this at the time. But basically, what happened is Kaminsky wasn't really open with the team, wasn't really honest, and tried to play through the pain, play through the injury. It hurt a lot. He eventually came to the team and said, "Hey, I'm really feeling discomfort and pain in this knee. Can you guys check it out?" They did. And what they were able to find is that, yeah, it was really screwed up and it was a bad situation and he needed surgery. And so he had been out for a couple dozen games, I believe, when the shutdown happened. And then he's able to recover during that time and then get back on the floor for the bubble. Didn't really play super well, trying to get his feet back underneath of him, and then didn't get a contract guaranteed in that offseason. So I guess the thing that I'm saying here is that I'm glad that I guess the sort of normal course of action ended up playing out here, where Kaminsky sits immediately, has the confidence and comfort to know that he doesn't necessarily have to worry about his future. I'm not saying that I believe he'll be out for the season necessarily. And of course, it's way too early to say whether the Suns would like re-sign him next summer or any of that. I don't know. But it's the right thing to do for his own health. And I guess I'm just glad that he didn't have to worry about free agency necessarily. And it's early enough in the season where he was able to get it taken care of, not have to worry. Because on top of recovering from that knee injury during the shutdown, I also feel like if you remember watching all of his workout videos on Instagram and whatnot, he seemed to be getting into great shape. And I think over the past 2 seasons, you've really seen that. I think I've even noticed it, especially this season, where he's really running the floor well. He's slimmed down. He moves better. I think that's a big part of why his defense went from awful to like maybe just a little bit below average, whether you're looking at the stats or just the eye test or whatever. He's not nearly as plotting and sort of ground bound as he was when he was in Charlotte. I think he moves and flows so much better. So it's a real testament to the work that he put in physically to get to that point. So hopefully handling this injury early, doing it as you're supposed to and not worsening anything, can get him back on the floor. And maybe, who knows, maybe this can be sort of a once and for all type of treatment to the knee where he's able to just move on with it. And obviously that's what we would all hope. But as far as what it means for the rotation, we saw a sneak peek in this game. He was obviously not on the floor, Frank. In his place, we basically saw that Monty played Mikal Bridges slash Cam Johnson really as like a backup four. So the bench unit, quote unquote, was Payne, Shamit, Johnson, Bridges, McGee. And in this game, it was a little hard to tell in terms of the minute load with that type of a rotation because they were ahead by so much in the fourth quarter that they didn't really need to actually extend anybody in minutes. But even with that, Bridges played 33 in a blowout. So you could easily see if this game had been competitive, he would be in that 40 range. So I don't know how sustainable that is, but this also was a game where Abdul Nader sat, and it was for injury management on his knee. Of course, he also had surgery for I believe it was a partially torn ACL or partially torn meniscus, that type of thing last year, and then came back in that third round. So hopefully that's not anything serious. And then if he comes back, things do sort of latch into place. But if you're looking at consistently needing to play games without both Kaminsky and Nader while Dario is also still out, there's not an awesome answer because Jalen Smith doesn't seem to have the trust of the coaching staff, or they just don't want to deal with him playing if they know he's not part of their long term plans, which is just unfortunate, but it is the business. And they don't really have another sort of like forward option unless they want to play their two-way guys, Ishwan Wright or Chandler Hutchison. So depending on what happens with the Kaminsky thing, depending on what happens with this Nader thing, it really could kick the trade rumors into hyperdrive. And I don't have anything off the top of my head. I didn't want to do a trade candidate episode, my third one of the season already. We want to celebrate the winning, of course, here on the show, but it's obviously going to be under scrutiny if the Suns now are without two rotation players. They're not, they're sort of the end of the bench guys, but they matter. You got to fill those minutes, especially during the regular season. So maybe we do see the Suns peruse that market a little bit more if these guys do have to miss time. I think they can survive without Frank. They'll just have JaVale play more, and Nader can get back into his role. But if Nader has to also miss time, you're really starting to get into something. So something to keep an eye on. Keep it right here. The Suns have not released their injury report for Monday yet. They don't have to until tomorrow on Monday, game day. So by the time I recap that show, we'll obviously know a lot more of who played and who didn't. This back-to-back should be interesting. Not a very fun flight at all to the San Antonio Spurs. So keep it right here. I'll let you know what happens. I'll recap the show right after the final buzzer, and enjoy your Monday.